Thank you, everyone. I have an array of wonderful speakers that are seated behind me at this moment. And I'm going to introduce another former teacher. As many of you know, I taught at Lowville Academy and I retired after 30 years of teaching. Couldn't have thought that I would one day be a teacher, but after 30 years, I look back and realize it was the best decision I'd ever made. And being here was the actually better than that best decision I ever made. So I'd like to introduce Marian Opela. Marian is a retired high school history teacher and also served as an administrator at the middle school level. She is presently secretary of the Lewis County Democratic Committee and serves her community in many ways. I leaned on Marian a number of times as I prepared for today. Not only did she respond with, "Sure, Chris, what do you need?" but she always responded with kindness and a calming demeanor. The yin to my yang. I asked her to present today, and I'm so happy she was happy to prepare a speech for us. Please welcome Marian Opela.
Well, thank you, Chris. I am definitely not in. I don't do this very often, so be kind, be kind. But I do have to tell you that I need to let you know that I was an administrator at Beaver River. You know, there is so much today as I looked at the TV, so many things going on, terrible things too. Somebody took it in their head to kill some Democratic legislators in the state of Minnesota. And if you didn't know that, it's all over the news. But there's so many things to talk about. So I decided I wanted to talk today about DEI. Anybody know what that is? Hey, you know, I was a teacher, but I was the type of teacher that wanted audience participation. So I need somebody always to say, yeah, or something like that. In any case, as I was writing this and thinking about it, I decided to title it In Defense of DEI. Well, I don't know about you, but I could never understand what the big deal was about with DEI anyway. Why doesn't anybody love that? I mean, I was a teacher in a middle school, in a public school. Public schools are all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. There you go. See? Everybody knows that. So I thought I'd talk a little bit because I taught history and it's really in my blood to think about who we are as a nation. So how in the world could an administration like ours try to do away with diversity? Good grief. Look around you. Oops. There are people in our administration today who think that diversity is a bad thing. And if you look at them, I especially like to look at the women. Aren't they all dressed alike? Their high heels, their long blonde hair. They are just perfect examples of womanhood. Well, I don't look like that. And I don't see people out there looking like that. So it's kind of silly. And when you think about our country, how did it come about? 13 colonies. There was New York, where the Dutch were. There was New England, which was primarily English. Virginia was English too, but they weren't the same kind of people that settled up there in New England. There were Quakers in Pennsylvania. You know all this. And as I've been thinking about diversity, I've been thinking, gosh, every one of us is so doggone diverse. Our sons have blood that goes back to England, France, Denmark. Even, would you believe, I think the Mongol horde has something to do with my husband's DNA. We are diverse, whether he likes it or not, or they like it or not. As individuals, as a country, diversity is indeed part of our DNA. And it can't be done away with. How are they going to do that? And indeed, do you remember what it says on our coins? E pluribus unum. And what does that mean? One country out of many. Out of many. So we have been enriched not only by those intrepid people that first crossed the Atlantic or the Pacific, but people from throughout the world. Immigrants today are suffering, as you know, and we commend all those people who are standing up for them. And that, folks, is you. And all those people today, they're, what they say, something like 10,000 or more, 50,000, I don't know how many, but a huge number in Los Angeles today, standing up to support immigrants. But if I asked you, if somebody came up to you and said, what is it that makes you American? What is it? What is the one word that would come up to you? What would you say?
Freedom. Freedom.
Freedom or liberty, one of those two. Well, where does that come from? It goes back even before the American Revolution, but it was put into words so beautifully that it's something that has been in our DNA ever since. And it was written by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence. Now, Jefferson, you can say, well, he didn't really live up to his words, did he? And we never have. As a nation, we never really have. But I want you to listen to this as though you have never heard it before. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Now, I may have wished he put women in there too, but he really was talking about mankind. All men are created equal. That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, driving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Right? Such powerful words. And they have been the foundation of who we are as America. Diverse as we are, this is what has brought us together. And honestly, I used to get a thrill every time I said those words and read those words to my 8th grade classes. They are so profound because what are they saying? All are created equal. Well, if you're created equal, then you are just as good as I am. We are just as good as those folks in Washington. Whether we have their money, whether we have their power, whatever, we are as good as anyone. And everyone must be treated with dignity. Everyone has value. So important. But equality, what is equality and how is that equity? They are two different things, and yet they're tied together. If you're going to have equality, you also have to have equity. Now, equity for me is as somebody saying, oh, you can't see, I'm too tall. Come up front, you're a shorty, which I am. For a student in my school, somebody who has a hearing problem has a right to get some help. That's equity. Equity means not that everybody is the same, but everybody needs to be treated so that they can take part in everything. So that's equity. That's, I get so confused. DEI, diversity, equity. Well, on to inclusion. Inclusion is really embodied in that term equity. And again, we need to point to one of our founding documents. So where does inclusion come from mostly as we talk about the founding documents? Well, that is in the preamble to the Constitution. 3 little words. We the people. We the people. And this is how that begins. And listen here, because here, as they set up the Constitution, they were talking about not just our rights, but also our duties as well. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. That's what we're working for now. Provide for the common defense. I'll leave that to the Army, I guess. Although, how many of you have served in the armed forces? Remember, audience participation. Promote the general welfare. The general welfare, it's not just for one group. It's not just for people who wear red hats. It's for everyone. The general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Native Americans, think we always ought to plan for 7 generations. And that's how the Constitution begins. And it continues with all of those rights that we are so familiar with in the Bill of Rights. But most importantly, we need to believe that it's not just our right to come together, to have freedom of speech, to have all those things, but it is also our duty to stand up against the abuses that we see every day with this current administration. Our duty is to fight for justice, to improve the lives of everyone we can, to be kind, to be generous. Oh my gosh, I'm so doggone woke. All of those things that we're not supposed to be. We need to protect those people that cannot protect themselves. One of my problems here is I left my glasses down there. But in any case, you get the drift. Our duty is to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Every single one of those people in government swears to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. I did that when I served on the Board of Education. That's how it's pretty much every level of government. So it's our job too. Benjamin Franklin tells the story, or the story is told about Ben Franklin, how a woman came up to him after he staggered out of that hot Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where they had been meeting to just put together the Constitution. And this woman says to him, "Oh, Mr. Franklin, what are we going to have? Is it going to be a republic or a monarchy?" And Franklin says, "A monarchy if you can keep it." Republic. He's so kind. Now that I'm on the last sheet here.
We can start over.
I'll go on to Lincoln in his Gettysburg Address. He said, actually, I don't want them. In his Gettysburg Address, he was speaking there, and he said, "Now we're engaged in a great civil war, testing whether a nation that was conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal can long endure." Folks, I believe that we are engaged in a great civil war today. Thankfully, it has been peaceful, and with any luck and good hope and God's will, it will continue to be peaceful. But we are fighting for our country. We are fighting for the Constitution. We are fighting for those ideals that we have long enjoyed and that we believe everybody should have. And Lincoln said, as he ended, something to the effect that it was his great hope that government of the people, by the people, and for the people should continue. It is up to us, I believe. Thank you.